Good morning. A Mexican journalist who exposed drug cartel violence has been found murdered on a highway with a threatening note, and that's just the beginning of what happened overnight. I'm Remo, and this is the Daily Signal for October 28th, 2025.
Unfiltered. Now,
Here are the other top stories for October 28th, 2025. Hurricane Melissa becomes 2025's strongest storm with 160 miles per hour winds, now battering Ireland and the UK with dangerous surf. Trump claims China trade deal will be finalized within days during his economic tour in Japan, markets watching closely. Cameroon's 92-year-old president Paul Biya claims victory again, making him the world's oldest leader amid fraud allegations. Sudanese forces capture strategic Darfur city of Niala, potentially cementing the country's dangerous split. British officials release convicted migrant sex offender due to human error. Shadow Home Secretary demands reforms. China blasts U.S. law of the jungle approach just one day after America removes 100% tariff threat. Paris prosecutor publicly regrets media parade of Louvre jewel heist suspects, citing legal concerns. Israel receives body Hamas claims belongs to Gaza hostage as forensic teams work to confirm identity. Australian fish named Arnie breaks migration record swimming 530 miles upstream in extraordinary conservation win. Now let's dive into each story. The body of a prominent Mexican journalist was discovered on a highway near Guadalajara with a threatening note placed next to it. This journalist specialized in exposing drug cartel violence, one of the most dangerous beats in the world. Here's what happened. The reporter, whose work had recently highlighted cartel activities in the region, was found by highway workers early Sunday morning. Local authorities confirmed the threatening nature of the note, but haven't released its contents. This is the grim reality for Mexican journalists. Dozens have been killed or disappeared in recent years for doing their jobs. Human rights groups are demanding international pressure to protect press freedom in Mexico. Why this matters: when journalists can't safely report on organized crime, entire communities lose their voice against violence and corruption. Hurricane Melissa just became 2025's most powerful storm, reaching Category 5 status with sustained winds exceeding 160 miles per hour over the North Atlantic. The critical detail: while Melissa is now weakening as it moves over colder waters, it's still bringing heavy rains and life-threatening surf to Ireland and parts of the UK. Travel and shipping across the Atlantic have been severely disrupted. Weather experts say Melissa's rapid intensification caught many off guard. It jumped from Category 2 to Category 5 in just 18 hours, a sign of how unpredictable these systems have become. This matters because even weakening hurricanes can cause massive damage, and Melissa's path puts millions in Western Europe at risk of flooding and power outages. President Trump made a bold prediction during his economic tour in Japan. A comprehensive U.S.-China trade deal will be finalized within days. Here's what we know. Trump's announcement follows months of behind-the-scenes negotiations aimed at reducing tariffs and increasing market access between the world's two largest economies. Both countries have been imposing targeted restrictions on technology and rare earth exports. The catch: official trade representatives from both nations haven't confirmed this timeline. Market analysts remain cautiously optimistic, but note that major details still need resolution. Why you should care: any U.S.-China trade agreement directly impacts global supply chains, inflation, and the cost of everything from electronics to clothing. If this deal materializes, expect immediate market reactions. Paul Biya, at 92 years old, has claimed victory in Cameroon's presidential election, extending his rule that began in 1982. He's now officially Africa's oldest head of state. The controversy: opposition parties and international observers are raising serious concerns about electoral irregularities. Biya's continued power comes amid growing calls for democratic reforms and political unrest throughout the country. Here's the shocking part: Biya has been in power for over 4 decades, longer than many of his citizens have been alive. His government maintains control despite mounting tensions. This matters globally because Cameroon sits in a strategic position in Central Africa, and political instability there affects regional security, oil production, and migration patterns across the continent. Sudanese government forces have captured Nyala, a strategic city in Darfur, after intense clashes with rebel groups. This move could permanently cement Sudan's dangerous split. The critical context: Darfur has endured conflict since 2003, with the region pushing for increased autonomy or complete secession. This latest military action puts the entire peace process at risk of collapse. Humanitarian agencies are sounding alarms about new displacement and violence. The region already struggles with food insecurity and limited access to basic services. Why this affects you? Sudan's instability drives migration, affects global grain prices, and threatens security across the Horn of Africa, a region critical for international shipping routes through the Red Sea. British authorities released a convicted migrant sex offender who should have remained in custody, citing human error in the administrative process. Shadow Home Secretary David Lammy is demanding immediate reforms. Here's what went wrong. Administrative failures in the immigration detention system allowed a dangerous individual back into the community. The government has launched an internal review, but damage is already done. The bigger picture: this case highlights systemic problems in how Britain handles foreign offenders and immigration controls. Similar errors have occurred before, raising questions about public safety protocols. This matters because immigration policy and criminal justice intersect in ways that directly affect community safety. When systems fail, real people face real dangers. One day after the U.S. said a 100% tariff on Chinese imports was off the table, China fired back, accusing Washington of using a law of the jungle approach to trade relations. The irony: despite removing the tariff threat, underlying tensions remain sky-high. Both countries continue imposing targeted restrictions on technology and critical materials. Here's what's really happening. Diplomatic dialogue continues, but neither side appears willing to make significant concessions. The rhetoric suggests deeper mistrust than public statements indicate. Why this matters to your wallet? These trade tensions directly affect prices for electronics, cars, and consumer goods. Even small policy changes can ripple through global supply chains within weeks. The Paris prosecutor publicly expressed regret over suspects in the high-profile Louvre Museum jewel theft being paraded in handcuffs before media cameras. The legal concern: authorities cited worries about presumption of innocence and suspects' rights versus public transparency. This rare public apology highlights tensions between law enforcement and legal protections. Background: the suspects are accused in last month's theft of rare jewels from the world's most famous museum, a major embarrassment for French authorities. This matters because how justice systems balance public interest with individual rights affects democratic principles worldwide. The Louvre case sets precedents for high-profile criminal proceedings. Israeli officials have received the body of a person Hamas claims is one of the hostages taken during recent Gaza conflicts. Forensic teams are working to confirm identity. The sensitive details: this exchange represents a somber step in fragile efforts toward hostage recovery and conflict de-escalation. Verification processes are ongoing. The broader context: complex negotiations involving civilian and soldier hostages continue behind the scenes. Each development affects regional stability and international diplomatic efforts. Why this matters: hostage situations humanize conflicts and often drive policy decisions that affect millions of people across the Middle East and global security considerations. An Australian freshwater fish nicknamed Arnie has set a new record by swimming 530 miles upstream in the Murray-Darling Basin, the longest freshwater fish migration ever recorded in Australia. The amazing details: scientists tracked Arnie's extraordinary journey using advanced tagging technology. The fish navigated upstream against strong currents, demonstrating remarkable resilience. Here's why scientists are excited. This record-breaking migration highlights the health of the river ecosystem and the species' adaptation capabilities amid environmental challenges. This matters because wildlife success stories provide hope for conservation efforts and demonstrate that environmental protection policies can work when properly implemented. Looking across today's stories, three major themes emerge that will shape the weeks ahead. First, institutional failures are causing real-world consequences. From Britain's migrant release error to Paris prosecutors regretting suspect treatment, systems designed to protect people are breaking down when we need them most. Second, global power dynamics are shifting rapidly. Trump's China trade predictions, Beijing's harsh rhetoric, and Sudan's territorial captures all signal that traditional diplomatic approaches may not be working. Third, there's a stark contrast between human resilience and institutional fragility. While Arnie the fish swims 530 miles upstream and journalists continue reporting despite deadly threats, governments struggle with basic administrative tasks. Here's what to watch. Any confirmation of Trump's China trade timeline will move markets immediately. Hurricane Melissa's path could still cause significant damage despite weakening. And Sudan's Darfur situation could trigger a humanitarian crisis requiring international intervention. The bottom line: today's news shows us a world where individual courage often exceeds institutional competence. Whether it's journalists exposing cartels, fish breaking migration records, or diplomats working on hostage releases, people and nature find ways to persevere, even when systems fail. That's your Daily Signal for October 28th, 2025. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you tomorrow with the stories shaping your world.
Unfiltered. Now.